On what should have been the perfect anniversary, Justine's world shatters. She's been living a double life, torn between her distant husband and a secret lover. But tonight, her husband knows everything, her betrayal, her lies, and the shocking truth about their son. As Tom silently reveals the devastating evidence, Justine's perfect facade crumbles. What will happen when the man she's deceived for years finally makes his move? Watch as a love built on deception spirals into an unforgiving reckoning, and no one escapes unscathed.
I went to celebrate our 5th wedding anniversary, hoping for a quiet evening with my husband, Tom. But instead of toasting to the years we had shared, everything unraveled. What I didn't know was that Tom had proof, evidence of my infidelity, my secrets, all I had been hiding. That evening was not only meant for celebration. It became the moment when everything would be laid bare in a way I never imagined. How do you face the consequences of your own actions when they catch up with you? This is the story of how a night that should have been a fresh start turned into my worst nightmare. The chime of a message broke the silence, making my breath hitch slightly. It was Tom again. He had returned earlier than expected and had planned something special for our anniversary. A surprise, he said, in that tone that used to make me smile. But I didn't. I was still in Jake's apartment, the heat of our entwined hands lingering on my skin. Being with him was intoxicating, but in a way that was different from how it used to be with Tom. Things with Tom had changed, and I couldn't quite remember when. He had become so absorbed in his work, distant even when he was home. His intention to surprise me was clear, but a small part of me doubted if it could ever rekindle what we once had. Jake watched me with those eyes that promised everything Tom no longer could. I was caught between two worlds, neither of which felt truly mine. I tried to act as if everything was normal, but the truth gnawed at me. How had I ended up here? It had all started innocently. A business lunch, a conversation deeper than I had anticipated. But slowly the lines blurred, and now here I was, with a man who made me feel alive in ways I hadn't for years. The thrill of being with Jake was a fleeting satisfaction, a high that never lasted. Deep down, I knew reality wasn't as simple as my desires. Tom's message still glowed on my phone, a reminder that there were more important things, or at least things that used to be. "I've reserved a table for tonight," he wrote. And as I looked at Jake, I knew I would have to leave, get ready, and pretend like everything was fine. After all, it was our anniversary, a time to celebrate what we had built. But the only thing I felt was the weight of something about to break. The satisfaction I found with Jake never seemed to translate into my life with Tom. And now, as I prepared for that dinner, I felt the truth inching closer, threatening to explode. 5 years can feel like a long time or just a fleeting moment, depending on how you live them. For us, those 5 years had been a roller coaster. At first, everything was thrilling, full of laughter and small moments that kept us connected. But over time, those little things faded. Tom buried himself in his work, spending less and less time with us. And I found myself seeking that spark elsewhere. Jake had come into my life at the perfect moment, when I needed it the most. What started as a distraction slowly grew into something more intense. 16 months. That's how long this affair with Jake had been going on. It was strange how time seemed to slip through my fingers when I was doing something I knew was wrong, yet couldn't stop. The relationship with Jake had become an escape, a breath of fresh air from the suffocating routine of my marriage. With Jake, I could forget about the responsibilities, the silence between Tom and me, and feel like the woman I once was. Each encounter was a small rebellion against a life that had become stale, but the excitement it brought me came with a price I wasn't ready to pay. Tom wasn't a bad man, not at all. He was always there, making sure our lives were comfortable, taking care of every material need. But emotionally, we were miles apart. Somewhere along the line, we stopped seeing each other. Our days had turned into an endless cycle of rushed mornings and late nights where we barely spoke. I could have tried harder, but I didn't. I let it happen, and in that gap, Jake stepped in. His attention, his touch. It awakened something in me that had been dormant for far too long. But deep down, I knew it was dangerous to rely on this fleeting pleasure. There was something Tom didn't know. Or at least I thought he didn't. Jacob, our son, wasn't his. He was Jake's. It was a truth I had buried so deep that sometimes I forgot it existed, but it followed me everywhere, shadowing every moment I spent with my family. Tom had been a wonderful father, present in all the ways that counted, even when his career seemed to drain every ounce of his energy. And I convinced myself that this truth could stay hidden forever. But the weight of it, the lie that I had woven into our lives, was always there, just beneath the surface. As I sat there in front of the mirror, getting ready for our anniversary dinner, that truth loomed larger than ever. I smoothed down the fabric of my new dress, carefully applied my makeup, and practiced the smile I would wear that evening. But beneath the surface, I was crumbling. The sense that something was about to unravel, that Tom's calm demeanor wasn't what it seemed, gnawed at me. The restaurant Tom had chosen was one of our favorites, dimly lit, intimate, a place where we once spent evenings wrapped in conversation and affection. But now, as I stepped inside and saw him sitting there, waiting for me with a calm that sent shivers down my spine, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was horribly wrong. His eyes followed me as I walked toward him, their intensity making it impossible for me to breathe easily. The dinner started innocuously enough. We exchanged pleasantries, skimming over topics that barely scratched the surface of anything meaningful. But there was a tension between us that thickened with each passing minute, a quiet storm gathering force beneath the veneer of normalcy. Tom's gaze lingered on me in a way that made me feel exposed, as if he could see through the layers of lies I had carefully constructed. And then, just when I thought we might get through the evening without incident, he changed. His tone, his posture, everything shifted. With an unsettling calmness, he reached into his bag and placed a folder on the table between us. I didn't need to open it to know what it contained. My pulse quickened, and my breath hitched as he pushed it toward me. "I know everything, Justine," Tom said, his voice low but unwavering. The words hit me like a physical blow. There was no going back now. He opened the folder and pulled out the first piece of evidence: DNA test results. My heart sank. Jacob wasn't his son, and there it was, in black and white, undeniable. The ground beneath me felt like it was giving way, my carefully built life collapsing in on itself with each second that passed. I sat frozen as Tom slowly revealed the depth of what he knew. My mind raced, grasping for a way out, some defense I could give, but there was none. The DNA test was only the beginning. With chilling precision, Tom laid out the pieces of my betrayal. Pictures of me entering and leaving Jake's apartment, the reports from the private investigator, the texts I had foolishly believed were hidden. Every part of my double life was laid bare in front of me, exposed like an open wound. The restaurant around us seemed to fade, the soft murmur of conversations, the clink of glasses. It all blurred into nothing. All that existed was Tom, sitting across from me, eyes hard and unforgiving, his voice steady as he spoke. "I've known for months," he said, his calmness more terrifying than any outburst could have been. "I wanted to see how far you would take it." My heart pounded in my chest as I struggled to find words. "Tom, I began, but he cut me off," his voice sharper now. Don't try to explain. You can't talk your way out of this." Each word he spoke was like a dagger, driving deeper into the raw, exposed truth between us. I felt small under his gaze, like a child caught in a lie. Except this wasn't some childish mistake. This was the destruction of everything we had built together. I had always thought I was in control, juggling two lives, convincing myself that I could have it all without facing the consequences. But now, in the cold reality of Tom's revelation, I realized how wrong I had been. Then, with a slow, deliberate motion, Tom slid a final envelope across the table. "Divorce for adultery," he said softly, but his tone left no room for argument. My hands trembled as I picked it up. Inside were the papers that would end our marriage, reducing everything we had to legal jargon and signatures. "I thought you should know," he added, his voice emotionless. "I've already frozen our accounts. Your things are packed and sent to your mother's house. There's nothing left for you here." The world seemed to fall away from beneath me. My breath came in short, shallow bursts as I processed the enormity of what was happening. I had not only lost Tom, but everything. Our home, our stability, the life I had known for years. His plan had been meticulous, a cruel mirror to the careful lies I had built, except his was designed to break me completely. There was more. As if my humiliation wasn't complete, Tom delivered the final blow. "Jake," he said, a bitter edge finally slipping into his voice. "He'll pay for this too. I've made sure the firm knows everything about your affair. His career is over." I gasped, the full impact of his words sinking in. He wasn't just ending our marriage. He was dismantling everything I had touched, burning it all to the ground. Jake's career, once thriving, would now be in ruins because of me. I had never imagined that Tom would go this far, that he would seek such total destruction. But the satisfaction in his eyes told me everything I needed to know. This was his revenge, and he had executed it flawlessly. With a last, measured glance, Tom stood up. He looked down at me one final time, his face unreadable, before turning his back and walking away, leaving me alone with the divorce papers and the shattered remnants of my life. The restaurant around me continued on, oblivious to the disaster that had just unfolded at our table. As I sat there, the realization hit me with full force. I had underestimated Tom, believing his distance meant indifference, when in reality, he had been quietly watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. Now there was nothing left. No way to fix what I had broken, no path back to the life I had taken for granted. The tears I had been holding back finally broke free, running down my cheeks as I sat there, clutching the papers in my hands. I had thought I could have it all, that I could escape the consequences of my choices. But the truth was, everything had a cost, and now I was paying the ultimate price. Tom had torn down the walls of the life we had built, brick by brick, and I was left with nothing but the ruins. I had lost him, had lost Jake. And now, the future stretched out before me, cold and unforgiving, just like the man who had once promised to love me forever.
Keep watching our stories by clicking on one of the videos that appear on the screen, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to be alerted about new videos. See you next time.